actually perform a hypothesis test, specifically when we know the population standard deviation. The first thing to do is going to be to state our hypotheses. And as a reminder from the last video, H0, the null hypothesis will be mu is equal to some number, which I'm going to call mu0. And the alternative hypothesis is going to be greater than, less than, or not equal to. The only difference between the null and alternative is that symbol in the middle. The null will always be an equal to, and the alternative will be a less than, greater than, or not equal to. The next step will be to compute the test statistic. For this particular situation where we are looking for a mean and we know the population standard deviation, this will be x bar minus mu0 divided by sigma divided by the square root of n. So our sample mean minus our hypothesis divided by the population standard deviation over the square root of the sample size. Next up will be to compute the p-value. We're going to use R to help with this, and how we do it depends on our alternative hypothesis. If it's a less than, then we'll use the command p-norm of z, where z is that test statistic. If it's a greater than test, we'll do 1 minus p-norm of z. And if it's a not equal to test, we'll do 2 times p-norm of the negative of z. Z could be positive or negative. If it's already negative, we just input that value, and if it's positive, we make it negative. Our fourth step will be to actually make a decision. For this, if p-value is less than our given value alpha, then we know H0 is false. And if our p-value is greater than alpha, then there's not enough evidence to say that H0 is false. And then our final step will be to summarize the results, to put it back in terms that the general public could understand. Let's look at an example. A researcher believes adults get less than 8 hours of sleep per night. A sample of 40 adults slept an average of 7.2 hours per night, and the population standard deviation is 1.4 hours. Is there enough evidence to support the claim? And we're going to let alpha be 0.05. My first step is to state my hypotheses. In this case, the researcher believes they get less than 8 hours of sleep per night, and that's what's going to give me my hypothesis. In this case, my null hypothesis will be mu is equal to 8, since it's always equal. And my alternative will be mu is less than 8, since this researcher is claiming adults get less than 8 hours of sleep per night. Next, I need to compute my test value. Here's my formula, x bar minus mu naught divided by sigma over the square root of n. In this case, my mu naught is the 8 that we had in our null hypothesis. We see a sample of 40, so there's n, an average of 7.2, that's x bar, and a standard deviation of 1.4 hours, that's sigma. If I then plug those values in and simplify, I get negative 3.61. So this is my test value. Next, I need to compute my p-value. In this case, this is a less than test since my alternative is less than. That means I'm going to use the p-norm command. So in R, we will have p-norm of negative 3.61, which gives us the value approximately 0.0002. Next, we need to make a decision. We need to compare our p-value with alpha. In this case, we can see our p-value is smaller than alpha. 0.0002 is definitely less than 0.05. This means that H0 is false. So I'm going to cross it out because we now have shown that that is false. That means we have to go with our alternative hypothesis. It is less than 8. Then our very final step is to state this in words, saying adults do average less than 8 hours of sleep per night.